everyone, today I am doing the Backstage Booktuber book tag. So this is basically a book tag that is not about books for once. It is mainly about the things that go into getting this video out there for you guys to consume. So the original creator for this video will be linked down below. I cannot remember whether I was actually tagged in this video or not. I don't think so, but I saw a couple of people in my environment take this tag and I wanted to join as well. So without further ado, let's dive into the questions. First one is, what camera do you use to film? I basically use my camera for filming any type of video that has this sort of sit down setup where I just put on the camera and I film the entire video stationary. So basically every video that isn't my vlog is filmed on this camera, which is a Nikon D5300. So basically I got this camera for photography. I took a course in photography before joining BookTube and I got that camera for that reason. I wanted a Nikon because basically our instructor was using Nikon, and so it was easier for me learning to use the camera because the settings were always in the place where he said that you could find them and things like that. I do quite enjoy this camera, but I will say that I've had quite a learning curve with it when it comes to filming on it, because I basically was struggling for a very long time with the focus on this camera, and then I finally found a way that really makes the manual focusing work for me, because I don't really like to have it shift focus all the time. So I wanted to focus once and then stay on that focus, but I was having problems with that original focusing element to it, but I figured that out with the help of my colleague, and so I think that for a while now my focus has been a lot better in these videos as well. For my vlogs I actually just film on my phone, which I recently now have a OnePlus phone, and so since then the quality on those has been relatively okay. I won't say that this has like an amazing camera on it or anything like that, but I do enjoy filming it with that. I don't really like filming my vlogs with that camera because when I was doing so I was noticing that it just wasn't updating all that much, because it meant having to, set up the camera and stuff like that. Using my phone also means that I can, more easily take clips when I'm on the move without having to think about logging a camera with me. I have a disability, I have a painful shoulder, logging a camera with me really isn't an option. Speaking about the fine art of filming, is there any type of a director that you look forward to? In no way does my video skills, and especially not my editing skills, get anywhere near the great works of cinema or anything like that, but I will talk about some directors that I really like. I haven't watched all of their movies in any case. I am not so in love with any of these directors that I make it a habit of watching every one of their movies. There's actually only one of which I have gotten quite a lot of his movies. I've got one of the collections of his work, but he has come out with more movies since, and so I'll mention him first, and that's Pedro Almodovar, which is a Spanish director, and so his films are in Spanish, but they are available with subtitles internationally. He is a famous movie director globally speaking. I really like his movies because of their vibrant style. So he always has very vibrant cinematography, very vibrant set design, and so I really love that. You also get a whole lot of Antonio Banderas and Penelope Cruz when you watch his movies, so that's always a fun ride. And his movies tend to have quite crazy plots from time to time. If you're looking for a recommendation for a Pedro Almodovar movie, I would say Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown is one of my favorite movies by him. Another director I really like is Danny Boyle. I really like the sort of fast cuts style to his movies. Think of Slumdog Millionaire, 127 Hours, and The Beach. Another movie by him is Trainspotting, his most famous movie, but I actually am not really entirely sure whether I ever watched Trainspotting, so that's definitely something that I need to either watch or rewatch, but I also have the book on my shelf, so that's why that's been waiting at the moment. And then another one that I want to mention here is Zhang Yimou, which is a Chinese director, and he's most well known for movies such as Hero, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, House of Flying Daggers, Raise the Red Lantern. So he is a very famous Chinese movie director. Apparently in recent years he hasn't really been known. A lot of his movies that have come out haven't really struck any sort of a deal with the Western world in any case, but I did also recently saw his more recent work Shadow, which I also thought was really well done. I really love the wuxia genre that these movies are placed within, and so I love Chinese culture and sort of ancient Chinese culture. and you know, the sort of like opulence of ancient China, and that is usually the time period in which most of his movies are set, so that's also very interesting. He is also the director of the American movie The Great Wall, but I'm not really interested in watching that one, and I'm not entirely convinced that that is gonna be a good representation of his directing style. Question number 3, moving on to some more technical details. Do you have a microphone, and which microphone do you use? And which editing software do you use? I do have a microphone, but the battery at the moment isn't working, so at this particular moment I'm using the microphone that is on the camera. Otherwise I just have like a cord microphone that you can attach to your clothing, for example. It isn't the greatest, it is just like a basic one, and I just wanted to be able to zone out the sound of the ventilation system of my apartment a little bit more, but I also don't do a whole lot with the audio once it is on my computer, so I mean I should get into audio a little bit more. At this point in time it isn't really something that I know a whole lot about. When it comes to the editing software, I use a VideoPad editor. I'm quite happy with it, but it isn't state-of-the-art neither, you know, but it is like, it had a decent price range and I'm quite okay with the options that it provides me with. I am not somebody who is great at editing. I hate editing, so I should get better at it because I do like watching videos that have been edited well. I just am always slacking when it comes to my own editing style. Question number 4, quite unrelated. Do you remember the first record that you bought? I do not come from the time when it was records, so definitely I come from the time when we had cassettes and later even CDs. CDs definitely was already when I was still in primary school, for example, but I do definitely have fond memories of the cassette era, and so I'm actually going to mention cassettes because I don't have any sort of like specific passion for music or anything like that. I can basically listen to whatever music. I don't really have favorite music neither, and actually at this point in time I almost never listen to music. The only times in which I was like listening to music was in the car, and I no longer have a car, so basically at this point in time I almost never listen to music. And so I also don't really have a fond memory of like the first record I ever got, the first album, or you know, the first like single. It will probably have been like a Britney Spears one or a Backstreet Boys or anything like that. But I do have fond memories of like cassettes that we would listen to when we were even younger, and so we had these cassettes that were like reenactments basically of myths, of fairy tales, and I really loved listening to that. I really loved the Rapunzel one that we had and the Box of Pandora one that we had, and actually created an entire book tag around the Box of Pandora because I have such fond memories of listening to that myth as a child. Question number 5, how do you prepare your videos? Do you have a sort of like full script or do you just wing it? And the answer to that is definitely going to be winging it. I do some preparation for my videos, you know, that depends on the type of video of course, but if I want to do a recommendation video or a tag video like this, I will kind of figure out which books I want to talk about beforehand. But if I'm doing a wrap-up or a TBR or anything like that, I will just have the books on hand of course, because I will have planned which books I want to read, or I will have the books with me that I've read, and basically I just go from there. I just talk from there. Basically the only sort of preparation that I do before a video is deciding which books I'm going to be talking about within that video. But anything that I say is basically just winging it in the moment. That's basically my style in life in general. So the few exceptions to this are disability and fantasy videos, which I still haven't published because editing me is procrastinating on that big time. But those videos which are more sort of like discussion videos or videos in which I want to make absolutely sure that I tackle every single thing that I want to say about the particular book or the particular subject, those I will kind of have outlines for. And in this one occasion for disability and fantasy, I actually had an entire script because I ended up filming it like 3 times, and so the 3rd time I actually just really wrote down what I wanted to say line by line, to avoid having to wing it for another time after that if something else were to go wrong. But even through the filming of that 3rd attempt of that video basically, I started by going over that script sort of like line by line, but the further I got along in the script, the more I started winging it again. It's just my natural style. 6th question, TV shows seem to have become sort of the thing of our time. Which are some of my favorite TV shows? Now, I used to be very much into TV. I used to watch a whole lot of series, but for years on end I haven't really watched anything, and I kind of stopped midway through a whole lot of the series that I was following. My problem with a lot of series is that they just run on for way too long. But I am going to be mentioning some TV shows here. I'm going to mention more than the 3 that I'm supposed to mention. I'm going to mention 3 sort of like comfort shows, and then sort of like 3 series that I, think are very well made, for example. So the 3 nostalgia ones are Buffy, Gilmore Girls, and Charmed. So this is not to say that I don't think that these are well made. Not every episode is a masterpiece, but I think that they definitely all have great episodes. And I definitely think that Buffy, for example, is just a great show in and of itself. It has its lesser episodes and seasons, but I really think it was groundbreaking in and of its own right. But it is for me very much a comfort show that I really love rewatching and re-experiencing that story because I grew up on it, for example. And then 3 sort of like series that I was just really impressed with when I watched them are The Queen's Gambit, Bands of Brothers, and Chernobyl. 7th question, what type of booktube videos do you like to watch? I prefer watching wrap-ups, and I prefer watching vlogs. I really like watching vlogs because, you really get a sort of like day-to-day feeling. You have a lot more of a casual setting, and so you get to know the person behind the camera a lot better. And I really love wrap-ups because I feel like they give you the best idea about whether a book is for you or not. Those are the ones that I watch the most at the moment on BookTube. That's definitely around wrap-up time is when I'll be watching a whole lot of videos, and TBR videos actually. I also really like watching TBR videos and seeing what everybody's going to be reading throughout the month. Not that I remember that at all, but for some reason I do like to see ooh, that's what they're picking up now, so yeah. And then the final question. So TV was probably a big part of most of our childhoods. However, it seems to have lost its prominence in recent years. So what type of media consumer are you nowadays? And for me, that's definitely true. I don't have a TV subscription anymore. I used to have one, but I didn't really watch TV all that much because, there were just a few things only that I wanted to see. And when it came to TV, I felt like a whole lot of what was on TV is reality TV. And I just don't like consuming that because I often feel like I'm wasting my time with that. And I also felt like the emphasis of those shows was often just so pointless or, so negative, so mocking of the people who participate in those shows. So I don't really watch a whole lot of things. A few Belgian game shows, for example, that I watch through the internet that way, but mainly I just consume a whole lot of BookTube at this point in time. There are a few series that I'm rewatching now, but I'm not really, I'm very much somebody who relies on the comfort of rewatching something versus watching something new, which is very different from, say, a few years back when I was watching a whole lot of other series. But at this point in time, I'm just never, I never seem to want to put on something that I haven't watched yet. I always would rather than just rewatch something that I know I like than actually trying out something new. So that hopefully will change at some point. I do need to watch a lot of these sort of Marvel Universe TV shows, for example. So one day I hope to finally make myself watch them. But so yeah, when it comes to TV, that's definitely something that I'm not really back into yet. And movies is another thing that I used to watch movies all the time. I used to make sure that I watched the Oscar nominees every year, for example. But since COVID, that has definitely disappeared. I still watched the Oscar nominees before COVID, but since COVID, that part of movie watching has also disappeared. And even before, I was already watching way less movies than I was watching before that. So basically all that TV time and movie time has gone into reading. And so I don't know whether I'll ever go back, because that would mean reading less than I'm currently reading. And so I'm not sure. I don't know whether that will happen. It's already happening a little bit now. So the past few months I have been watching more TV, and as a result I haven't been getting around to as much reading as I was getting around to before that. And I think that the balance that I've struck with that now is perfect. I like the amount of time that I'm spending rewatching shows and the amount of time that I'm reading. So probably it'll stay around this level as it currently is. And so maybe at some point that rewatching time will go into watching new things. But so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got to enjoy, some of the backstage elements to this booktube channel and to me as a booktuber, but also got to see some sides to me that I don't usually talk about on my channel because they aren't necessarily fully related to books neither. Now, in terms of tagging anybody, I'm not going to tag anybody specifically, but if you are a booktuber and you're watching this, then definitely feel free to take this tag. It is a nice change from talking about, you know, books to talking about the way that you function as a booktuber and, you know, some of the other medias that you consume and what you like in those medias. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and see you guys for a future one. Bye!